solution, no competition. That doesn't mean that you don't want to be first to market. That doesn't mean you don't want to do things differently. That's not what I'm saying. But when you talk about IoT, you try to, I'm gonna build the best product ever. You already failed. Your strategy is wrong. It's already failed.
So who sets the standard? Because like when I think of, based on what you said, I think of open source, but also I think of like people who just capture the market, right? Like Tesla has all their superchargers. Now all the OEMs are all like, or the OE car manufacturers are all adapting their chargers to work with superchargers in Tesla, and not working on their own level 2 or whatever.
So that's a little tricky because that is very industry dependent. So when you talk about automotive, that's your example. I don't agree with the Tesla approach, but I don't agree with a lot of things that Tesla does. That's personal, right? But if they would have adopted already standardized, it would have been much faster. Now, again, that's the competition part. If they would have been collaborating instead of competitors, they would have come out with a much faster infrastructure because the OE would have to adapt. They already had it. So that's the industry. But if you go from automotive, you go to like a smart home or industrial automation or robotics, they all kind of have their own industry standard. Some of them are slower than others, but you cannot decouple your application from your industry. You still have to comply with those standards because even if you're doing something new, at some point the standard has to catch up. At some point they gotta standardize or put a limit into what you're doing. The sooner the better.
Yeah, Lightning, USB-C.
At some point.
Actually, Apple was like, soon you switch to USB Type-C. And then they finally switched it to USB Type-C.
You have market influence, right? In Europe took the step and said this is BS. So you have your political situation. There's a lot of external factors. The point here is like, back to this question, right? Who standardized that? That's a hard question because it's very depending on the market. And if you're talking about an IoT provider, some of you might be thinking about that. Hey, can I do another IoT company? You don't want to, rarely you want to focus in a single market. You want to be able, that IoT solution to be open to industrial application, automotive application, other things. Because again, you're no longer building products, you're building solutions, you're building systems. And that system could always be adapted to a different market with a slightly different component. Meaning, if you go back to the list that was there, right, your backend could be the same, but the sensor collecting the data, one could be a tire sensor, the other one could be a robotic sensor. They all fill to the same backend, will do the magic and send data back. So your system per se, but your collection of the data is different.
But while that is true, what I've seen is like IoT is a field where every company wants to bring their own standardization. So one company will bring the standard product which can fix with multiple places, but then like mushroom, all the companies or all these segments are developing their own. So you tell me, like as a solution person, business solution person, I sometimes get into this kind of dilemma that which particular strategy should I choose?
Yeah, and that's what I was saying where because they were competing, so they all want their standard to survive. But then the sooner the realization for the additional market, the sooner they realize that collaboration is a better path forward, the better we will be. I'm spending a lot of time in the automotive industry basically telling that it's like, hey, guys, we can skip that period of hard competition and go straight to collaboration. And then we're talking about, let's talk to Bosch, let's talk to the OE, let's talk to Ford, let's talk to Volkswagen. Let's go there and talk about collaboration while protecting your own niche. The sooner we get there, the more successful we will be. The sooner you realize it in your own company, in your own application, when they come to your company, even if you don't do IoT as a company, but they come back and say, hey, we want to do the camera, the more you tell them to think about a solution, not a product, the better you will be. Okay, what are the components of the solution that I need to put together to bring value to a customer? Or if it's an internal development, there's a lot of stuff in factory automation, AI into the actual factory. If it's just an internal, then you go, okay, which are the partners that I need to reach out to put together a solution that works for me? Think about component and no product. component from here, and then you try to gamble it. No. Bring the component.
What are the top industries looking forward for such solutions? I know anybody can find a solution by a company, but in your view, what are the top industries that are really getting into this IoT solutions?
The top what?
Industries. What, like health?
Listen, it's every industry is working on it. The smart home and industrial automation is the most mature today because they've been doing it for a while. That follow with general automation, like non-industrial automation. So think about garage door opener, stuff a little bit outside the core. Then automotive is the next big one. And then after that, pretty much anything else. Pretty much anywhere you go, there is some type of data collection in AI or machine learning happening. So even locally, like there's a lot of edge machine, edge computer, right? Not necessarily in the cloud, but even in the vehicle themselves, the new one, they all collecting data and then giving you information like, oh, your tire is low, whatever. It goes beyond just reading the sensor. The old way was reading the sensor and telling, oh, your tire is low by 3 psi. Now it's more of, your battery is your tire is low, but it's saying it because the wheel is disaligned. There's a vibration. It's not just temperature. The wheel was exposed to -10 yesterday overnight, which means the air is lower. So it's giving you information with context, so you can make a decision. The next step is include AI, so that decision is automatic. So instead of telling you that, it actually give you an appointment to go check, based on your calendar, to go check the time. So that's the next level. The next level is that, the first level is trigger an action, you go do it. The next level is actually execute that action automatically. The third level is integrating with other systems. So not only you do that action automatically, but someone may even come to pick up the car. So, I mean, exaggerating, but that's kind of the level that you look for automation, right? So notification with context, execution, and then expansion of partnership.
Sitting down, lying down.
Even it's so big in manufacturing industry. In manufacturing industry, use of IoT application are huge.
Manufacturing can kind of guess. Like healthcare, healthcare is monitoring.
The thing with
Folks in your screens are asking, when you send a paper out, you can collect data and really say, you need to come here, find something wrong, right?
So people,
like that.
a lot of people in healthcare is very special though. We try healthcare. Healthcare, the nature of the service is complicated because it's very subjective to the doctor, the hospital. There's a lot of privacy issues. There's a lot of data issues. There's a lot of there. So it's very complicated to implement clean IoT solutions. The best way that the industry has managed it is isolation. So to track equipment in a hospital, that system do not talk to the scheduling system, for example. They just completely isolated. That doesn't work well because what we discussed it. When IoT integrate, that's where the value is. Independently, it's just a product. Then what do I do?
Right? Now, they're only telling you.
There's a person who needs to make that connection. That's what healthcare is very special because it's very complex to do it, a startup to do it, and a startup is where most of the innovation happens. It's hard because, again, you are against a lot of lawyers, like the example you heard earlier, right? And if you go into healthcare and you get sued, you might lose everything. So it's a high-risk environment, and only the big guys do it. And those big guys already have a lot of interest in hospitals to stay in the current system. So they pull it back. That's what happened in healthcare airlines. We also Boeing, like, this inspection could be automated. But there's a lot of liability, there's a lot of certification, there's a lot of stuff that doesn't allow anyone to do that. That's why we have two main, Boeing and Airbus, right? That's the only two who really make airplanes at volume. Why? It's not easy. So they have a lot of interest in keeping that duopoly, so they keep it down. So that's another example. There are certain industries where it's hard for you as a startup to break in, and the big guys not only that, but they had a lot of interest on keeping it that way, so they push back. So you kind of need someone that has a lot of resources and want to kind of start a startup to break through those big markets. Absolutely. That everyone, she said, what's happening with edge computing, right? What do we do with edge computing? How do you see people adopting it? Do you see resistance? The answer is yes. There is a lot of resistance because doing it on the cloud is easy. It's easy, very easy. I have infinite resources. I can spawn infinite amount of virtual machines. And sometimes I can do it for free if I'm starting to do it. So doing it on the cloud is easy, but doing it on the cloud is expensive. If you want to scale, you cannot do it on the cloud. So that's where things break down. If you're thinking about developing a product and your market is, I don't know, 20,000 devices a month, do it on the cloud. Do it on the cloud. You don't need to do anything else. It will be fine. If you're talking about more than 10 million that you sell a year, you can't do it on the cloud. The data transmission will kill you. The data storage will kill you. So that's what that's it, right? So do you see resistance? Yes, a lot of resistance. Why? Because the way to do it not in the cloud is harder. But there's a crossover. When you cross about 300 to 400,000 devices a year, the cloud price just collapses. Unless there's another level where if you're a big guy and you're doing 100 million, now you get Azure and AWS coming to you to tell you, hey, we can give you better prices. Then it cannot change again. The idea is somewhere in between, where you do most of the stuff in the edge, but then send a final status back to the cloud, where you can do more. And then, when you have a I don't want to call it free, but I want to call it a cheaper connection, like Wi-Fi. Once you have Wi-Fi, then you can dump your data as a binary block and store it. So eventually, when you want to come back and say, oh, I want to do this AI, all of a sudden this data set is available to you. And it's stored and it's cheap. Storage is cheap. Processing it and compute is expensive. But storage is cheap. So you always store the data because guess what? You can come out with a use case later where you're like, oh, I wish I knew how many people actually touch this button a day. Oh, guess what? I can go back to my data. Then you pull it out. Then you do stuff. So the ideal solution is a little bit of both. You just have to manage costs.
And one more thing to that what he's saying, power is also important. Because every edge
Electrical
device,
power.
yeah, every edge device requires power. So if you have say 100,000 edge devices, and if you want them to compute, you are investing much more in cost. And this device might be somewhere like far away from power. So the battery and everything that also matters. So sometimes you feel that it's better to spend one time a day to compute in the edge and sometimes in the battery rather than doing the computer.
And honestly, sustainability is usually a big driver for IoT. So to your point, right? If you have a bunch of lithium-ion battery, if you have a bunch of stuff consuming power, you defeat the purpose. So that's exactly a really good point.
So they're already running with RF service. They already run this
Radio fast?
Yeah, radio fast. They already run it.
So the actual infrastructure, or like how do you get to it?
Physically, they're already running it.
AWS and Azure? Yeah, because nothing in particular. A cloud is a cloud. But as a startup, you get a bunch of free credit. So absolutely, Azure give you 200,000 credit. AWS give you almost the same. So I've been running for almost a year, and I still haven't paid 1 cent to them.
So let's say if I have a lot of hotel, hospitality network, can you run Wi-Fi from the cloud?
question, right? Wi-Fi is a wireless protocol, right? You need physical hardware.
Device.
Correct. Correct. So
But you have a lot of there.
what we do is, if you have an idea and you want to get it connected, you're a founder or even a smaller company. Like, I'll give you an example of a customer we're working with. They are farming equipment manufacturer. They have this little gauge meter. The water, I don't know if it's water or oil, I don't really sure. But they had a liquid that goes through it, and they have this little metal ball that show the pressure of the pipe. Very simple, old technology. They have 3 of these balls, and the guy physically go to each of them and say, oh, the ball is 3, the ball is 5. That's what they do. They design a device that goes in top of it with a camera and literally just look at that, digitalize it, and send it over Wi-Fi. Right? They selected Wi-Fi in a field, 2.4, wrong decision. Why? Because that's not their business. They didn't know what connectivity to use. More importantly, they don't want to know. They don't want to hire an RF engineer. RF engineers are expensive. If you go to someone and you try to get a project going, you're going to pay at least $30,000 in RF to develop something. When you're a small company or a startup, $30,000, that's real money. So what we did is, okay, we give you everything you need to get your device connected. We are experts, so we will design the right technology for you. In that case, I would have done LoRa, or I would have done 900 megahertz. Better range, the data that you send is very little. So that should have been a better solution. So that's what we do. We're experts. We give you everything you need. The design, to go into your hardware design, give it to your hardware design and do it. The data, and then you tell me what you want me to do. I can send it back to your app, or send it back to your backend. I can email it to you if you want. You tell me, and we do that. You don't have to pay $30,000. You pay a couple $1,000 to go more, and then a monthly fee per device. That's, if you're a startup, instead of $30,000, if I tell you, oh, pay me $2,500 and then $1 per device. Give you an example. That's much better for you. You're developing a fleet that had 100 devices. That's $100 a month plus the $2,000 instead of $30. And as long as you're part of the platform, we'll maintain it, we keep it. 3 years from now, Wi-Fi 7, Wi-Fi 8 from now, if you're in the platform, we give you a new updated, you revise it, and you're done. You don't have to worry about connectivity. So that's what it's called as a service. So you pay for it, we give you everything you need to get connected. Don't worry about it. Don't follow the news about what the new technology is. We do that, and we give you that.
How big is the company?
How big? Oh, we're not that big. We have about 7 direct employees, and we source about maybe 13 or 15 contractors. Yeah, so we literally just started last year, and we had 2 pilots going. That's about it. That's what's happening right now. But we're moving along because we're going to customer discovery, MVP definition, like what are we really putting out there? What really are the market that we really want to attack? Because again, IoT goes everywhere, but we're small, so we want to start kind of focus on it. So we're still in that process. Any other questions, comments?
I was about to say, like, IoT, I think is like severely overrated. Everyone's focused on AI and recently crypto again, stuff like that.
Yeah, right?
Like, yeah, well, it's down today.
And that's the thing, that you can't have AI, you can't have any of that without IoT.
Because the protocol.
Because IoT, we're collecting the data. That's the thing about AI. Everyone is amazed about AI, but AI is trash in, trash out. If your model is wrong, trash out. If your data is trash, you get trash out. Because that's the thing, like the quality of the data is important, and that data is collected by sensor, by IoT collected sensor, IoT collected camera, IoT collected. That's what collects the data, and then the bigger your system, the bigger your data set. Then you have to think about data management, connectivity, back to your point, right? Oh, do I send everything to the cloud? Could you? Absolutely. But if you have 1 million sensors, you're gonna pay a day. Who are you selling this system to that can you get the money? But if you do edge, maybe it costs you 50 cents a day. Now you got a product. So every industry is different, but in general, the bigger, if you design your solution and you know that eventually it's going to scale, you have to have a computer in your mind. It has to be.
That's actually how the AirTag works. Like when I was reverse engineering it, like it sends like raw data to the phone, and then the Wi-Fi app on the phone takes in all that, and then actually computes the actual location. Because otherwise, like it's not doing that on Apple servers.
And it will cost a lot. So absolutely, like if you're scaling, if you're not talking about edge computer, you're already ready. It's absolutely critical part of developing IoT.
So when you do you have endpoints in the cloud?
Endpoints?
Yeah, like to send the data back to.
Yeah.
Do you usually store it on the, like do you use serverless functions like as your functions or?
All the time.
Okay, because they're free, right?
Well, they're not free, but like
I thought they were free.
depending what you're doing. Depending what you're doing. There's a lot of free stuff. If you do it commercially, it's no longer free. And if you integrate it with other services, it's not free. But to her point, I do a lot of stuff like I get people excited on the cloud with an assured function. I show them, oh, this is what you can do, and then I throw the point where I'm like, oh, and guess what? I can move that assured function to the edge with 2 clicks, and it just move it to